start the sign-in sheet because I definitely want to get that credit. Is anybody doing Passport? Anybody participating in this? Okay. It's just when you attend workshops, you can get a sticker, and if you get so many stickers, then they give you little prizes along the way, and then at the end you get your name in a drawing, and at the end of the semester, they draw a pretty nice prize, if I remember. It's something like a notebook, or not a notebook, but what's littler than a notebook? I mean, electronic. Can't think of the word for it. Well, the thing which is like a computer, but smaller than a computer. They're like an iPad. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, we're going to get started. For those that aren't familiar with me, my name is Tess O'Brien. And I've taught at the community college for 25 years. And one of the really nice things about my job now is that in addition to teaching, I tutor in the math center for 14 hours a week. So that is really nice for you because if you have additional questions about the calculator or just about college algebra, you're welcome to come and see me in the math center on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. And then my email address, in case you want to email a question to me, is just tobrien@nwacc.edu. And my office is SC 349. So feel free to drop by and see me if you have questions about whatever, calculator or algebra. I'll be very happy to help you and try to answer your questions. What I'd like to do to start out with is just to get a little sense of where we're at in terms of what you know about the calculator. So, are you comfortable with basic arithmetic features of the calculator, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing? Okay, is everybody pretty comfortable with that? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to concentrate more on the graphing, but what I'm going to start with are teaching you a few concepts, a few things about the home screen of the calculator that you may not know that can save you time and make you more efficient in the use of it. And we'll kind of walk along this handout, so you may want to have your handout available. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, because I love questions. I don't mind being interrupted at all. So the first thing I want to show you is how to make your screen darker. So when your batteries start to get low, look up at my screen for just a minute and watch the right-hand corner. Okay? I'm doing second and up arrow. Did you see a little number flash there? It was the number 6, now it's a number 7. So by hitting alternately second and up arrow, I'm making my screen darker. And second and the up arrow. And then second and down arrow makes the screen lighter. On the newer calculators, they have an automatic feature that tells you when the batteries are getting low. You still have lots of life in those batteries when it tells you that they're low. So it's nice to have a spare pair with you, or I guess 4 of them actually are what you need. But you're not going to need them for a while. It's not going to go dead in 5 minutes or something like that, what it says. Okay, the next thing that I'd like to show you is a menu and some features underneath the menu. So and when I talk about columns, columns are the vertical lines of buttons and rows are horizontal lines of buttons. So in the first column of buttons, the third row down, there's a button called Math. So if you hit your Math key, it brings up a menu, and this is a great menu. There's some neat things under here. And so I wanted to talk to you about these. The first thing I'll show you is we're on Math. Now hit the right arrow key, your right arrow key to the NUM menu, and you'll see ABS. That's absolute value. So if you've been wondering how do I type in the absolute value of something, that's how you do it. So you go to Math and then right arrow, and that gets you ABS. Now, there's lots of sub-menus on your calculators, and so it's easy to forget where something is. 3 days from now, you may be going, okay, I know I've seen absolute value somewhere, but I have no clue where it was. So the really nice thing on these new calculators is it contains a catalog of all the hidden functions in alphabetical order. So if you'll go with me to second 0, this is the catalog. And you notice the first thing there is ABS, so absolute value is the first thing you'll find. But we can scroll down, and every built-in feature on our calculator is built into this list. So if you forget where something is, you can always just come to your catalog and scroll around until you find it. Okay, let's go back to that Math menu. So Math, and to put catalog, I hit second 0. Right now I'm just hitting, you may have to quit, and that's a good thing to know too. In the second column of buttons at the top row, there's next to second, it says mode, and you'll notice that written above there is quit. Anytime you get somewhere and you think, I want to go back to the home screen, you're in some menu or something, and I don't know where I am, I need to get out, do second mode. That will quit and it'll bring you back to the home screen when you do your calculations. Anytime you want to get anything that's written in blue, you hit the second key. When you want to get letters, you hit the alpha key, which will probably be either green or yellow on your calculator usually. So let's go back to Math. The first thing you see up there is frac. And what that does is return an answer as a fraction. So let's say we want to add 2 numbers. Let's go second mode to quit, back to the home page. And let's add 2/3 plus 4/7. So I just type in 2 divided by 3 plus 4 divided by 7. I don't need parentheses in this case because the calculator follows the rules of order, so it'll do division before it does addition, which is what I want it to do. Now hit Math and select number 1 and hit Enter. And it gives us a reduced fraction as our answer. So if you've always had trouble adding and subtracting fractions, this is really a nice feature, because it allows you to do it more efficiently and probably more accurately as well. Other things, if we go back to the Math menu, the second item returns the answer as a decimal. And that's the default, so you don't use that very often. Unless you've just gotten a fraction and then you want to know the decimal, you would use this. But I hardly ever use number 2. 3 is for cubing. And of course, how else can I cube? How else can I get an exponent on the calculator?
Using the little,
Yeah, it's called a caret key. It looks like a little rooftop. That's called the caret key, and that is for exponentiation as well. So I could cube by hitting that caret key in 3, or I can hit Math 3. And that'll give me a cube also. The fourth item down is the cube root function. The fifth item I want to look at, it's a really nice one because it's for taking any root.
The fifth one?
Yes, the fifth one down. So let's say that we want to take the sixth root of 64. Okay, let's go back to our home screen, second mode. Hit the number 6 to tell the calculator that you want to take a sixth root. You have to tell it what root first. Now go to Math and select number 5. And then type in 64. Now my calculator is the newer operating system, so it made it actually look like it should, the sixth root of 64. Yours may not look like that. It may just have a 6 and then a little X root and 64 after it, and that's fine. You didn't select the right one.
Okay.
So clear that off and do 6.
Do I go to Math?
Yes, after you cleared it, it did 6, then do Math, and 5 is the one you want.
Okay.
Enter.
Okay.
Yeah, but you didn't hit 6 first. So first hit 6, and then do Math, 5. And 64. And enter, and we should get 2. So a lot of nice things under that Math key that are very helpful. You put in whichever root you want to take first, that number. So that's why we had to put the 6 in. Then you hit Math 5 to get the any root key. And then you hit the number you want to take the root of. Let's say that I look up there at that 2/3 plus 4/7, and I think, rats, I really meant to do 2/3 plus 5/7. And I noticed I did it wrong. Okay? So what I'm going to do is scroll back to get that calculation, and then I'm going to fix it, okay? So to scroll back, there's 2 ways. If you have the new operating system, just hit the up arrow, okay? And you should scroll back, you should scroll up, and then you can hit enter and it brings it down. Okay, so I just scrolled up and hit enter. If that doesn't work, if you hit up arrow and nothing happens, do second and enter. And that brings back the last calculation. And second and enter again, that brings up the previous one. Okay, so second enter brings back a previous calculation. It's a way of scrolling back. Now let's arrow over to where that 4 is. And let's change it. Let's change it instead of a 4. I want to make that a 15. Okay? I want to make that a 15. I can't just type 15, because if I do, it'll type over what I already have written. So type a 1 on top of the 4. But now, if I type a 5, it'll go over the divide symbol. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is insert the missing 5. So if you look at that key that's next to mode in the top row, it says DEL, and written above it in blue is INS. That means insert. So do second DEL, and you'll notice your cursor now looks like just a clear blinking cursor. You can type a 5, and it'll insert it instead of typing over. And then we hit enter, and you should get 59/21. So if you make an error in a long calculation, instead of having to retype the whole thing, you can scroll back, go to where the error is, and then do second DEL for insert, and insert whatever the correction is. And DEL will just delete. Like if I wanted to delete the 4, I could have just hit delete. Got number 4 and hit delete. Now, let's type in the following calculation. 5.25, it's the one on your handout that's at the bottom of the page, the very last calculation. So it's 5.25 plus the square root of 3. How do I get the square root? Where's the square root on the calculator? X squared, yeah, do second x squared, that gives you a square root of 3.
Second? Okay.
And then, let's see, subtract 2.1 caret 4. Now, how do I get pi? Where's pi? Above the caret key, right. So I do second caret to get the pi.
Plus.
Yeah, plus pi. And I hit enter, and I get this big long number.
I'm sorry, where was the previous pi?
Second caret.
Second.
And if I don't have the number, I guess will I have to hit enter because they didn't give me that number automatically.
You, after the pi, you should have hit enter.
Oh.
Enter is like execute. It gives you the
non-real.
command. So probably you may have typed, so let's go to, you put in a parenthesis, or it put in a parenthesis, and we need to close the parentheses. So I'm going back to where that subtraction is and doing second DEL, inserting a closed parentheses. Now you also forgot the addition. So let's do second DEL and put a plus. And you also forgot an addition over here at the 5.25, right after 5.25. So again, we do second DEL and insert addition. So I think that should be it. Now hit enter. Okay, you got that number. Where's the DEL in this? Right here.
There's no second.
The second is the blue button.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get the insert, you do second. But to get DEL, you don't need second. Yes. Yes, exactly. Thank you for asking that. You have to right arrow one time to get out from under the radical. Right. If you have the newer operating system, I don't know if you noticed, but when I did the square root of 3, let me just do the square root of 3 again. On this newer operating system, see how my cursor is under the radical? If I don't get out from under the radical, it'll keep typing under the radical. So to get out, I just hit the right arrow key, and now I'm out from under the radical. Okay?
Mine puts in a parenthesis.
You have to close that parentheses. That's a good question.
Okay, so
go
back up.
second, yeah, or you haven't hit enter yet, have you? So just go to where your subtraction is.
Back up.
Yeah, just up arrow. Or that's fine too, yeah.
Go, how far?
Up to where the subtraction is. Actually sit on the subtraction. Now do second, insert, open, close parentheses. There you go. And then enter and you should be fine. Okay, yes ma'am.
I can't figure out how to get the 1, 4 as well.
Okay. Good. And now just subtract, and then 2.1, and then caret, just, no, not second, just caret, yeah. And then 4, and then you'll have to right arrow to get out from the exponent, and then plus, and then 7, yeah, then 7. Right. Okay, has everybody got that number then? Negative 9.3244, blah, 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 blah. Let's say that we're going to do a bunch of calculations and we're going to need that particular number a whole bunch of times. So I don't want to have to type that number in every time. That was not fun. So, and I don't want to have to type in the long number either, the decimal. So what I'm going to do is store that number in memory as the letter A. Then every time I want to use it, I can just recall A, and I don't have to retype it. So to store that, since it's the last thing I've done, the very last thing in memory, you can do second and negative. Second negative brings up A and S. That says the last answer in memory, which should be the negative 9.324456539. Then hit the store key, which is right above on,
Wait, second A
second negative.
and second
And the store key's right above on. And you'll notice it puts a little arrow there. And now do alpha A, which is alpha math. So you should have A and S with an arrow following it, the letter A, and hit enter
How'd you get I'm an answer.
to store. And then alpha math to get the A.
Where is my story here?
It's right above on. It's in the first column, but it's right above the on key. STO is stored.
Okay. So store and then
Alpha A
alpha.
and math, alpha math. And you should have now answer, arrow, A, and then below, hit enter and it'll say the negative. So now let's use that number. Let's take 3.75 plus 5 times that number. So I want to get the A back. I do alpha math again. And it puts an A there. Okay, let's just hit enter there. So it just took that number, the negative 9.32, blah, 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 and multiplied it by 5 and added 3.75 to it. And now that number will be in A until I type over it something else. Don't worry about it. Uses minimal memory. So you don't have to delete it or anything. Once you store something as a letter, it's not going to hurt it to have it in there. Okay, so I think we've looked at everything on the first page. So we looked at absolute value, we looked at square root, we did answer, we did pi, and then we looked at, on the top of the second page, we looked at the math menu. And we're just down at, we just did storing an expression. So the STO key on the second page. And then correcting errors. I showed you how to correct an error using second delete, which is insert. And how to recall the last expression using second enter. Those are the main things I wanted to tell you just about the kind of the arithmetic operations or the home screen of the calculator. Any questions about any of that? Anything you weren't able to do or you're not sure where it is? Okay, remember, anytime you have questions, it's okay to interrupt, and if you think of them later, you can come see me or email me. So what we're going to do now, the rest of the class we're going to spend in looking at graphing specifically. Yes, ma'am?
Sometimes my calculator just sort of, well, it kind of freezes up. It gives me this, syntax error. And I mean, how do you?
A syntax error means that you've typed something in that it doesn't understand. And a lot of times what it could be is, for example, in English we use the word minus. if I say -5 minus 7, you know that what I really meant was -5 subtract 7. Well, the calculator doesn't understand the concept of minus. If you mean negative, you have to use the little white negative key. If you mean subtraction, you have to use this. So if I use those in the wrong place, it won't understand and it may give me a syntax error. Or if I try to take the square root of a negative number, it'll probably tell me irrational number. So it may give you an error message. It means it didn't understand whatever you typed in. Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is the top row of buttons, the top gray buttons there, the Y equals, window, zoom, trace, and graph. And my goal for you is by the end of the period, I would like you to be able to do the following things. Enter an equation in at Y equals. Adjust the window so that you can see the important features of the graph. Make a table, a T-table. Find minimum and maximum values. Those are low points on a graph or high points on a graph. And then find points of intersection of two graphs. Okay, so those are the things we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. Okay? Again, don't hesitate to ask questions if you run into some questions. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Y equals. And I have, wow, a really complicated equation in there. So I want to get rid of it. So I just hit the clear key, which is right above the caret. And we're going to enter the equation that's the first example. So it's in the box, the top box on page 3. We're on page 3 now, and the very top box. So we're going to enter x squared, subtract 3x, subtract 5. Now, to get my x, hi.
Okay. Is this the
Graphing.
number?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, come on in. We're just starting the calculator part, so you're in a good timing. Here you
So I
go.
don't run any calculator.
Okay, and do you have a graphing calculator? Yes. Okay, great. All right. I'll let you get your calculator out and then catch you up with us. So I was just saying that to get an x, you hit the x, t, theta, n button. So it's got a bunch of stuff written on it. It looks like x, t, theta, n. That's where I get my x from. I don't do alpha. I don't have to do alpha. I have a built-in x. So let's hit x. And then what are two ways that I can square that x? I can use the caret key and a 2, or x squared button, right? There's an x squared button in the first column that I can use, or I can use the caret key. Either one of those will give me x squared. Now, we just spoke a moment ago about the difference between the subtraction and the negative. So right now you want the subtraction button, which will be either gray or blue. And then 3x subtract 5. Now, after you've got that typed in, let's hit the window key, which is just next to Y equals. And I've got a crazy window. Thank you very much. I've got a really crazy window there. Where I like to start is with what they call the standard viewing rectangle. And the standard viewing rectangle looks like this. It has as the min, what's controlling the left side of the graph is x min, and that's -10. That controls the left edge of the graph. And then we have x max. It controls the right edge of the graph, and it's 10. And then the scale is the value of each of these notches. And in the standard window, X scale equals 1. And then the Y min, I want to be -10. And that's going to control the bottom of my graph. And the Y max controls the top. And the Y scale controls what each notch is worth. So we want Y max to be +10 and Y scale again to be equal to 1. So now I can go into my window and I can change each of those manually. Or to get this specific window, there's a faster way to get it. If you'll hit your zoom key, the next button over, and select the number 6, that's the zoom standard, it automatically puts it at this window. So it gets you there really fast. So I'm going to hit zoom and then the number 6. And now we should see a graph of a parabola. Okay? Is everybody with me? Anybody behind? Were you able to catch up to us? Or?
I was just trying to figure out where you were at.
Okay, I apologize. We're right entering this in. So we went to y equals. And we typed this equation in, so you can just hit clear to clear that one out. X squared, and you can, yeah, that'll work. And then, or that one. Now hit a right arrow to get out of your exponent. And then subtract 3x. And subtract 5. And then we did zoom 6. 6. That's where you're at. You should see a graph of a parabola coming up.
Why would you select graph 6 instead of just graph?
Zoom 6 adjusts the window to that window I was just talking about, which is called the standard window. It's just a good place to start for a lot of graphs. Now, what I notice about this graph, this is actually a perfectly fine window, so I would probably stick with this window. But notice that there's some extra white space on the left there. So I could move the left edge in to make it look even a little bigger. What controls the left edge? X min, right. Right now X min is -10. If I set it at maybe -5, it would move the edge in and it would make the graph look bigger, like I had zoomed in on it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's hit window. And let's change our X min to -5. And we're going to leave everything else the same. And hit graph.
So change X min to 5.
-5.
And then I guess.
Just hit graph. So it's a little more centered and it looks just a little bit larger.
My cursor is blinking on 0. So is that going to
Delete. You don't want that 0 there and do -50. Yeah, now hit graph.
What was it?
To so you go arrow down till you're on that position and hit clear. Okay. And then do -5. Right, and then just hit graph. You're welcome.
I noticed that I push window and you take me back to the whatever it was.
Yes.
10. Okay.
Yeah, if you hit zoom 6, it'll take you back to that window.
Okay.
So that's why when you change it, hit graph and not zoom 6. So now change it to -5 and then hit just plain graph. That's not negative, that's a subtraction. So let's clear that out and let's do it again. -5 and then graph. Okay, now one of the things you'll notice about my parabola is it looks really flat on the bottom, doesn't it? Should it look flat on the bottom? No, definitely not. Parabolas are not flat. Then why is it making it look flat?
Because it's the
It's a calculator limitation. See the little notch marks on my x-axis, those little squares? That's the smallest dot that the calculator can make. Are like the little squares on the y-axis or the x-axis. So in order to be able to show curve there, it would have to make smaller, narrower line, and it can't do it. So that's why it just connects it and makes it look like it's flat. But in a few minutes, we're going to find the vertex of this parabola. We don't want to be on that flat part. Okay, we want to be on either side of it, but we don't want to be on the flat part. Okay, so to adjust the window, again, we just go to Window, and if we want to bring in the left edge, we change X min. If we wanted to bring in the right edge, we change X max. Now, let's talk about the scale. Let's say that we changed, we're not going to do this, but let's say we changed our window from the X min to -30 and the X max to 120. If I leave the X scale, how many notches would I have on my X-axis? How far? If you had to walk on a number line from -30 to 120, it'd be 150 blocks, wouldn't it? I don't want 150 notches on my X-axis. It would just look black, right? So I like there to be about 10 to 20 notches. That's a good number of notches. So what I'll do is I'll take that 150 and I'll divide by either 10 or 20 or some number in between. In this case, I'll probably divide by 10, let's say. So 150 divided by 10 would be 15. So I could make my X scale 15.
Okay, how did you get the 150 divided by 10?
To go from -30 to a +120.